Okay, I'm going to take you in your leg kick. So the one on the left is where we're really focusing on our direction. Okay, one on the right is where I just told you to throw from the stretch before I said anything. One adjustment that we made before anything, before your right foot is flush to the rubber on the right. Okay, so we see that difference at the beginning. You see both sides though, you are lifting your heel. Okay, so we're gonna need to be aware of that. We actually don't want this to happen. We want our weight to stay in our heel as we lift. We don't want our heel to pop up like it is right here. Okay, leg kick looks good. I actually really like how you lift here. This is a very good way to lift. So I wouldn't change a thing that you're doing right here. Okay, there are some things that we don't see from this perspective, and I'm going to leave that to the other perspective. So when we get to the side view, I'll be talking about things that you won't necessarily see as well in here, even though I might be seeing them. Okay, so we're focusing on your direction. So one thing I want us to be able to do is, even though it might not be right, I want us to do what we're trying to do. Okay, so if I say raise your right arm and you lift your left arm, okay, we don't have a very good understanding of what we're trying to accomplish. Okay, so if you're trying to control the direction of your body, and my cue was take your hips, your right hip over to the red screen, you know, are you actually doing that is what I'm trying to see. So I'm just going to draw a line on both again. Okay. So we can see on the right already, right out of the gate, a lot of things are already moving to the right. Okay, so there are several reasons why this is a disadvantage, but the number one being an object in motion stays in motion. A property of momentum is direction. Okay, so when our body is going in a different direction from where we are trying to throw the baseball, we end up fighting that momentum. So already you can see that you are better off on the left. Okay, it's not as much as you thought. Okay, but we can see based on the foot mark, okay, you are way over here, okay, where we're closer to this red line. Okay, so it's not dramatic, but you are doing something different. You are still moving to your right more than you probably felt like you were, okay, but it's less. Okay, so this is why I say I told you to go this way because I had a good feeling based on how much you were going this way over here that if you thought this, I might get you a chance to go forward. Okay, so that just shows you how much more we need to actually think our body should be moving this way. That's how our feeling is off from what reality is. Okay, so in a front foot strike, all I'm going to talk about is this. Your upper half knows what to do. So upper half needs to time front foot strike. In both videos, I'm looking at your front foot coming down right here, and your upper half is timing that really well. So we clean up your lower half, and there's a really good chance that your upper half knows what to do. Okay, so I'm going to talk some crap here. Okay, so the first thing I asked you was, have you worked with anybody else? And you mentioned your coach that you had worked with, and you had made the comment that all you had worked on is, or talked about, is release point. Okay, so let's get something straight here. Everything that happened right here is an action. Okay, so I mean everything. This is an action, this is an action, this is an action. Everything that you're doing up until front foot strike, in my opinion, is an action. Okay, so this is the stride phase of our throw. It is an action. Okay, now not entirely, but for the most part, everything after front foot strike should be a reaction if we are doing things properly. Okay, so he's talking, and many people, when they talk about release points, are talking about something that happens as a reaction to something that happened before. Okay, so I'm going to get real technical here, and I'm going to tell you what is actually happening when your arm throws a baseball. Okay, and this is going to be a 6-7 minute video, so here we go. Okay, so when you hit the ground, your arm is going to lay back in external rotation. This is a good thing. Your arm lays back like that. That is maximum external rotation. Okay, right here, and then your arm is going into internal rotation. So the whipping back of your arm, where it lays back here, your arm, shoulder and arm are externally rotated. Okay, your hand is supinated. Okay, that's just what it is. So if you ever think about holding a bowl of soup, that would be supination. Okay, so your hand is supinating as your arm is laying back. Okay, so supination happens after external rotation starts. So it's a chain of events. It starts in your shoulder starts externally rotating, elbow, and then your hand lays back into pronation. Okay. Similarly, as your arm goes into internal rotation, okay, your hand follows and will pronate. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in here on both sides. So it's actually better. As your direction and legs became better on the left, your reactions with what your arm was doing were better. Okay, so on the right, you can see how you're very much on the side of the baseball. You are cutting the baseball because your hand is still supinated. Okay, so part of throwing a baseball is that your hand naturally pronates. So right now, as you see your hand turn over and your thumb go to the ground, okay, a high velocity thrower does this with the ball in his hand because his arm is moving faster. So this process happens either over a greater distance to allow it to happen with the ball in his hand, or it happens over the same distance and it just happens in a shorter period of time. So pronation will actually happen with the ball in his hand to a high velocity thrower. A lot of information right there. So one more time. Your arm lays back in external rotation, your hand is supinated. Your arm will then snap forward into internal rotation. That's what we're seeing right here. So when the arm straightens, that's internally rotating. Okay, you'll see some kids that look like they're pushing the ball and it looks like they're flexed. Okay, that's somebody who is still externally rotated as the ball comes out of their hand. They're not internally rotating. A coach that says, get on top of the baseball, get on top of the baseball, he's seeing you kind of push the ball. He's seeing your arm still not internally rotating. You might not hear this very much because you actually do a good job getting on top of the baseball for the most part based on the fact that your arm is internally rotating. But if you have ever seen or anybody talk to you that plays first base for you will tell you that your ball cuts like crazy. I remember it all winter, and it is because of this. Has nothing to do with your grip, has everything to do with the fact that your hand is still supinated as the ball's coming out. We get you a little bit more explosive with your legs, and your hand will naturally be pronating through the baseball without you even trying to change that. All right, cutting off.